Okay, guys, officially story time. I've been meaning to tell this story for a while. We actually, I think, shot us talking about Rio's birth story for YouTube, but then we got super busy and we never put it up. And honestly, it was such a whirlwind, crazy experience. We really don't have a lot of footage or photos during that time. So I will just tell you the story here, and yeah, let's just jump right into it. Disclaimer. When I tell stories, I do drag out stories and give details that are so tiny and not important. And Carlos is like, babe, can you just try to condense the story just a little bit? So I'm going to do my best to condense this story. But it's just naturally who I am. So we'll see what ends up happening. Anyway, guys, early in May, I was about 34 weeks pregnant, and I wake up around 4 a.m. to what felt like I was peeing myself. Not a whole lot, but just like a slight little tinkle. I am super pregnant in my defense, so I immediately get out of bed, run to the bathroom, and relieve myself. I then go back to bed, go back to sleep, and 2 hours later, the exact same thing happens. And I'm like, this is weird. I have never peed the bed before, and now this is the second time in one night. It doesn't make any sense. So I go back to the bathroom, but this time I turn the light on, and when I do, I realize that there is a tinge of pink, or a hint of pink in my pee, and I go, okay, this might not be pee, this might be my water. But it's not like a gushing thing, so it wasn't like my water broke. It was as if there might have been a slight drip out of the bag. So immediately I call my midwife and I'm like, hey, is this normal? It's like a light pink thing. I thought I peed myself. And she goes, your bag of water is probably broke. I'm going to need to see you. But until I can see you, you need to be on complete bed rest. And I'm thinking, bed rest? I have 2 kids. Logistically, me being on bed rest is not, it just doesn't make really any sense. But I'm like, okay, I'll try. And she's like, no, you can't try. You have to be on bed rest. So I'm on bed rest. I'm just chilling, waiting. And I don't know. I was just in this hopeful place of, no, it's not my bag of waters. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. Why would this have broken out of nowhere? It might have been the fact that we're always chopping down trees and doing all these crazy different things, working on our land. I don't actually think that's why. But I was like, what could have caused this to break? So we take Carlos to an appointment. We even go to the grocery store, and finally I'm like, okay, I'll go in and see her because it is still leaking a little bit. So Carlos is in the car with the kids, and I go in and see her, and she's just like, honey, this is your bag of waters. She was able to confirm it with some sort of test. And I'm like, oh no. What does this mean? She goes, you have to go to the hospital immediately. And I'm not going to lie, guys, this was not in my birth plan. Obviously, my birth plan, let me just share my vision with you. My birth plan was, I'm going to be in the living room. We are going to have an amazing, beautiful water birth where the tub is in our living room, right in front of those beautiful sliding doors, so we could open the doors. It would be at sunset. Rio would want to come out of my body at sunset. So we're going to have twinkly lights everywhere. The lighting is going to be perfect. That Maui breeze is going to come in and hit me, and I'm going to push a few times, and Rio is going to come out into this world, and it's going to be glorious and beautiful and hippy dippy awesome. This was the opposite of that. She's like, you need to go to the hospital where they're going to put you into the NICU unit and who knows what. And I wanted this hippy dippy thing, and my vision was going out the window. But at this point, that was the least of my worries. Even though I wanted it so badly, I was like, okay, great. Let me get to the hospital. We'll figure this out. So I get to the hospital. This is all still within a couple hours. So the kids are in the car. They're starting to lose it because they have been in the car for a while now. But Carlos is like, I'll be in the parking lot. I keep telling him, don't worry. I'll be right back. They weren't allowed to come into the hospital with me, so they just chilled there. And when I get in there, they're like, we need to medevac you immediately to Oahu, to the NICU unit. And I'm like, wait, you can't see me here? They're like, no, we don't have a NICU unit here. You need to go to Oahu. We're preparing your plane now. And I have nothing. I have no clothes. I have like no hospital bag, no phone charger, nothing. I'm not prepared at all. And I have to call Carlos. I'm like, babe, they're medevacing me out of here. I don't really know what to do. Now, I will say this. The hospital was amazing. All the nurses and doctors were incredible. But this situation should have freaked us out. Like, it should have been terrifying and scary because all of this was happening super early. The stuff to follow, I mean, they medevaced me to Oahu. Carlos had to meet me there and bring me some clothes and a couple other things. And I ended up getting a fever, and they weren't sure if the fever was because my water had broken and I got an infection, or if the infection is what might cause my water to break. All this stuff just started happening, and it was kind of like this domino effect of one thing after another. And I really wanted a drug-free pregnancy, but I went from like this hippy-dippy vision, drug-free pregnancy, to now these doctors are saying, hey, we want to put you on antibiotics because you have a fever and an infection, and this could go to the baby and it could be really dangerous. We also want to make sure that, we can speed up your labor because like the baby's just chilling in there and your water is already broken. And at this point, we're on day 3 in the hospital. I mean, like the domino effect of everything that was happening. They wanted to give me a steroid shot, all this stuff. It was the exact opposite of the experience that I had been hoping for. And yet, we were like so cool and collect this whole time. Like there was zero fear, zero worry. All I can explain was that it was like a supernatural peace. And I know that that came from like prayers from my friends and family, and the prayers that I was having with God and talks that I was having with God that whole time. Even though I was still super hopeful that somehow my bag of waters would seal up, because that does happen. I was like, maybe it'll seal up since it wasn't a big break and it was like a tiny tear, and I can deliver this baby at home still. So I just kept envisioning that again and again and again. But ultimately I was like, God, you have a plan, and Rio is going to come into this world however you want her to be here, and I'm ready for that. So a few days later, I end up, I'm laying there, and the nurse happens to be checking on me, and we lose Rio's heartbeat. And that happens from time to time just because of like the way the monitors are in your belly. And it can just it could just be placed wrong. So she starts like moving the monitors on my belly again and again, like trying to figure it out. And at this point, we're almost a minute in, and there's still no heartbeat. And I'm not freaking out, but I'm like, why is my baby girl not moving? Like normally I can like move her and she'll kick back, and she's doing nothing. So I'm just like, okay, God, like, come on, just like move her around. So I'm like pushing on my tummy, and I'm like, Rio. And I'm starting to kind of go like, okay, if she doesn't have a heartbeat, like I need to get into a C-section now. And it just so happened that the doctor walks in at this point, and she's like, all right, let's flip her over. Like, so they pull the covers off of me to kind of like flip me over in hopes that we can like get Rio to move. And when they move the covers, the nurse screams because Rio came out. Guys, like her head was already out of my body. So let me say this. I went from like, I don't want any drugs in this pregnancy, to my midwife being like, okay, you should take this drug. You should take this drug. This drug is necessary. Like, thank God for her, because she gave me so much peace about what I needed in this scenario, and just helped me feel super confident and comfortable of like, this is what modern medicine is made for these emergency moments and to keep us safe. So, they had, I opted for the epidural at this point. I was like, I'm already here, might as well take it. I could feel nothing. I've never had an epidural so heavy before. That was insane, that I couldn't feel Rio slip out of me. So the nurse screams. She's literally like, oh my gosh, her head is out. So Carlos, by the way, Carlos is here at this point. He jumps up out of his chair and is like, huh? And then before you know it, her whole body was already out of me, and he like missed the whole birth because it happened so quickly, and we were all kind of freaking out. And this is how insane and incredible the NICU unit is. Within 45 seconds of her being born, we had a team of like 10 doctors who are like specializing in like NICU stuff. I'm not a doctor, so I can't explain it. And they were all there within 45 seconds of Rio being delivered to check on her and to make sure that she was fine. It was unreal and crazy, but she came out so fast. She delivered herself, essentially. I like barely did anything. And they were able to still place her on my chest for a quick moment, not as long as I would have loved, but they rushed her off to make sure that she was super healthy. And from there, you know, the idea was we'd probably be there for a month or two just because she was so small. And even though she was healthy and she was able to breathe on her own, she had great lung development. She ended up latching pretty well immediately. She was like the size of a burrito. I can't even explain it. Like a Chipotle burrito would probably weigh more than her and would probably be slightly bigger. She was just tiny, and my boys were huge. So we were just like, this thing is so little, but she was so cute. And it was just a whirlwind. And I'm still trying to gather like what on earth had just happened. And thank God Carlos was there because he's my teammate, and you need a teammate. It's so amazing. So she's delivered, but I can't go with her because I have to be able to walk and I'm so numb. So Carlos goes with her to the NICU unit and I don't see her for a couple hours and I'm so bummed about it, but I was able to pump and get her some milk. And she also took the bottle, which was rad. So again, they're expecting us to be there for the next month or two. And Rio was such a champion that we got out of there. I was only in that hospital for 2 weeks, and that was including the days prior to having her. And it was amazing. Like she was so strong from the get-go. She was ready to see the world. And it was insane. But I will say this. So like, there's my crazy story. Rio was just a funny, wild thing right from the beginning. But sorry, I'm trying to gather my thoughts. This is mom brain kicking in. I cannot explain the peace that we had the whole time. And Carlos had to get back to the boys, so he leaves after a day and a half. And Rio's in her little incubator. And I finally, for the first time, am completely alone in the room. Like, no one in there. Rio's already born. And she's okay, but she's like in the NICU unit and they're still making sure that she's doing well. And the reality of everything that just happened hit me and I just lose it. Not in like a lose it, like hysterical way, but I just start bawling because I could finally release like this, like I don't know. It was as if I was holding my breath the whole time. There was supernatural peace. So don't get me wrong. Like that was there the entire time. But I could finally just release like everything, all the events of what had been going on for that whole week. And I don't know why I needed to be completely alone to do that, but I did. And I was just praising God and thanking God for that amazing birth and that she was okay considering everything that we had gone through. Because I did get a bad fever. I did get a bad infection. I also, for those of you who followed my varicose vein journey, my varicose veins clotted. They clotted so badly that like giant balls were on the back of my legs that if I tried to sit on the toilet, I barely could because it hurt so badly. So I had the domino effect of like the worst things that could happen. And yet somehow it was still a beautiful, beautiful journey that was just filled with God's peace. And anyway, all this that you guys finally got to hear the birth story, but I just want to say over and over and over again, like, man, prayer was so powerful and so important to me during that time. And had I not had like my group of people praying for me and giving me strength during that time, I don't know how I would have done, but it was just peaceful and as peaceful as it could be for the craziness that it was. And I just got to thank all the awesome doctors and nurses that were at the NICU unit because they helped me feel super confident. And I know that they're also a huge reason why Rio was able to get out of there so early and safely. And it was just a crazy epic adventure. Anyway, this is already almost 15 minutes and I was trying to do my best to condense this birth story, but it was just such a wild, crazy birth story that was as much as I could condense it. I hope it made sense in my mind. But yeah, if you guys have any more questions about the birth story or what I was feeling, just comment below and I will reply. Love you guys.